All right, let's begin by walking, if you can walk us through what this bill is really all about for the benefit of those who are not even familiar with the Water Resources Bill when it showed up in 2020 and then re-represented or presented again in this assembly just before they leave and it's been thrown out. So what is this bill really all about?
Thank you very much. And I think, good afternoon, Nigerians. The bill itself, if we look beyond the beautiful long title, which speaks about creating a framework for regulating water resources, all water bodies, and so on, the bill is supposed to actually be one to take care of the water sector in terms of the water bodies that we have in Nigeria, be it groundwater, other water surfaces, and so on. And not just regulation, but also management, and then looking at the intricacies of how water regulation should be. In a nutshell, water resources in Nigeria, what should be the framework, and how should they be implemented? That's what it's meant to be. So it's not strange to have an act that regulates water in any society. As a matter of fact, it's important to do so because water, as we know, is a basic resource with which we cannot do. Without which we cannot do. So it is very understandable to have an act. And we actually have an existing one, which is in the LFN 2004. That's Laws of the Federation. But then this is like an amendment that is supposed to now bring us to current realities. But then, like you said, it was introduced at first, even in 2017, then reintroduced because of several controversies and the draconian nature of the bill, which a lot of us spoke out against. But here we are now.
Well, as much as time will allow us, those draconian provisions, as you explained them, because this, I'm not sure where this is. Is it a vexed issue or is it a controversial issue? Why is there so much? Because when you go online, you check different associations from religious to socio-cultural organization, there's a pushback against this bill. So what are those draconian provisions that seem to have divided the parties, divided the nation, divided the interests across board, and finally it's been thrown out? So whatever the benefits were in between all of this is no longer going to be considered.
Thank you very much. That's a very brilliant question. And time is really short, but then I'll just highlight a few of them. We are known for always advocating for public interest, control, public ownership, and democratic control of collective resources, especially something as important as water. So when you look at some of the provisions of that bill, because we did a clause-by-clause analysis, you see, first of all, the of privatization, though it is disguised as privatization is really problematic the way it is presented in the bill. Also, we have the provision for licensing, in which case there will be issued water licenses to Nigeria or to Nigerians who need to have water either for private use, domestic use, and all of that itself is not going to be issued in your place of domicile. All the powers would now reside at the center, which is the federal government. So that bill itself creates another agency, a commission, which is a federal commission, and then everything that has to do with licensing, with management, with functionalities will be administered from the commission in Abuja. So that itself is against the spirit of true federalism. Nigeria, as we already have it, we are still trying to protect our federal system, protect our democracy in a way that a lot of us have been saying power should be decentralized as much as possible so that people can benefit as much as they can. So, and when you look at that and juxtapose with the fact that the United Nations in 2010 declared water and sanitation a human right, you would then think sensibly that in a situation like ours, any provision that will be made for water or any piece of legislation would then be in line with that resolution that now makes water a human right, which Nigeria is signatory to anyway. But then this, the bill as it was then, was totally against that spirit of public interest, public ownership, and then true federalism.
As you can see, and as you admitted before you started, the luxury of time is all we don't have. But quickly, in 30 seconds, if you can, what will be provided in this bill for it to be represented or in the National Assembly for for all parties to finally agree? If we take out this element of what is seen as anti-restructuring, what else should be put in this bill for the people to accept it moving forward?
Okay, that's very simple. Public interest should be put at the center of anything that will become, as a matter of fact, an act or a piece of legislation in Nigeria, in which case we are looking at democratic control and public ownership of water, resuscitation of public water, as opposed to the promotion of privatization. Also, power to the federating units of Nigeria, as opposed to the center, which is the federal government.
Thank you so much for coming on the program. Human rights advocate and Associate Director, Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, Deronke Ige. Thank you so much for your insights on the program.
Thank you very much for having us.